to our latest, welcome to our latest interview with Mr. Nick Percival. Greetings to all Terra Virtuans out there. Nick, great to have you here for the second time. I think you're one of our only two repeat performers. So obviously you were very popular the first time. They want you back.
It seems a long time ago, but yeah, it's cool to be back again.
It was the very depths. You were our first artist on Terra Virtua, and this is what we did, and now we're here again. What is it? 6 months later?
Yeah, maybe longer. I think. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. So we're here, obviously, to introduce everyone to your latest work, which is a labor of love, something you've both written and painted, which is the volume 1 of a graphic novel named Bloodlines.
Yep.
Is that right?
Oh, definitely so. Yeah, looks good.
Hey, I did my homework, got it right. We can leave now. It's great to see you again. For those of you who don't know, Nick is, well, I'll let Nick say who Nick is, but he's a world-renowned comic book artist, painter, and I'll let him elaborate a little bit more as to what he's primarily known for. Nick.
Yeah, I think it must be coming up for 30 years now. I've been doing comic book and film concept artwork. Probably known a lot for the Judge Dredd and Judge Death artwork that I do on a semi-regular basis in the comic 2000 AD. I also had a long stint painting covers for the Hellraiser comic book. I've done stuff for Marvel, well, pretty much all the major comic book publishers, painting covers, painting interiors, film concept artwork, animation, video game concept stuff. So yeah, it's never ending basically. I mean, it is just a day job, but it's still exciting and still get to do something different each day.
It's amazing. And actually, you're a collector yourself. I mean, I've had various conversations with you, and there's always something really interesting in the background. So I know it's not just comic books you collect, is it?
No, I mean, I'm a big fan of the old like Universal horror monsters. So I like to collect, models, statues of the kind of Frankenstein's creature and the Lon Chaney stuff. And I mean, I used to work in a comic book store, so I've got like thousands and thousands of comic books and comic book related merchandise and memorabilia. Yeah, I mean, the house and the studio is just nuts for that. It's just, I mean, some of the stuff's crazy. It's just, you look at the stuff that you bought for about $100 or something, and it's just sitting on the shelf next to you, and you suddenly look on eBay and it's selling for like $3,000. It's like, what? Keep the cat away from it. It's pretty insane.
It is, but you're a true fan because none of this stay mint in the box rubbish. You actually have them out there for display, to touch and feel, and to enjoy.
I do, yeah. I mean, the boxes are great, but it's you've got to, they're there to be seen, aren't they? Really, and I don't plan on getting rid of them and stuff like that. So if something drops off, I'll just glue it back on there and keep it. Yeah, no, I like to have things around and stuff. It's that's what it's there for, I think.
Yeah, I can imagine the clutter. It's anything like my place. So obviously, you've got a rich background, as you say, a few decades of painting and traditional comic book art. And you obviously started off with paints and wax crayons or whatever, but on sort of physical painting. And then at what point did you progress to digital?
It's probably around about 2000. I started messing around a little bit with Photoshop, and then really sort of maybe a few years after that, really getting into the painting side of it. So I would still draw pages in a traditional way, pencil on card. I still like that tactile feel of that side of drawing. And I used to paint in acrylics and oils, but now I'll scan the pages in from pencils and work digitally, but still really keeping a painted look to it. And, really try and recreate the look that I did when I was painting, but obviously using some of the tools and advances you can do with the digital stuff, with the effects and textures and so on. So it's a kind of combination of the two things, really. I mean, at the end of the day, it's an image, it's a piece of art. How it was created, doesn't really matter. But I do like to go for that sort of dirty, textured feel. So it has got that painted look to it rather than the sort of very slick, obviously computer colored feel. Yeah. It's just a new set of tools, but it's second nature to me now. It's just what I do all the time.
But I didn't realize you actually do. You still use pencils rather than a graphics tablet to do the sketchy
Yeah. I
bits?
mean, that's the one thing that I've kind of kept separate. I mean, I do like drawing. I like smudging and shading, and I mean, I know you can do that now effectively with the tablets anyway. It's more. I still find it fast, and I like the process. I mean, it's still quite nice also that I've got a ton of pencil pages lying around and whatnot. But yeah, that to me is always the first stage, and then move over to the computer for the painted side of it. So it's, I mean, I may change that later on, but at the moment it's quite a fast process and it gets the work done. So I don't see, if it isn't broke,
That's great. Use the tools to their maximum effect.
Yeah.
And it's good that you mix and match anyway. And of course, it helps, and we'll get onto this later, but it helps that you do those pencil drawings to begin with, because obviously you preserve those, you keep those, and then they can be used to flesh out what we're going to show later. So we'll get onto that. But I guess going back a little bit, how did you get into NFTs, as if I didn't know?
Well, I think there was I was approached by someone who I've known a long time in the industry.
Shady character.
I believe. Yeah. I mean, that I used to do a lot of stuff in computer animation and the computer games background, and obviously that's your original, forte. And I know we've kept in touch over the years anyway as friends. And then I remember you telling me about NFTs and what you're planning to do and the tech that you were building behind it and the content. And I like I say, to me, it was all new. I mean, I knew about digital comics and that you see online and whatnot, but I think what you were explaining, and it was the whole ethos behind it, that what an NFT was, but not just the item, but how you could view it, how you could keep it, how you could create a whole environment around that, and also some of the different opportunities for artists in terms of how you could use the technology to enhance traditional work and move beyond that. It was really exciting. It was all new, and I admit I was a bit skeptical at first, like you would be with anything, but you showed me some examples, and we tested a few pieces out on your platform, and I think it's totally been proved. It's fantastic. It's definitely it's complementary to everything that exists in visual creative content. It's just another format, and it's another thing that creators can use, and also then collectors can get into as well. It's a whole new avenue for them as well in terms of what they actually get and what they can do with it. So it's it's early days, but it's certainly it's amazing what's going to happen, I think.
And the other thing, in terms of going a bit businessy for a second, but in terms of democratizing the amount paid to the creator, because for the first time ever, you actually, if someone buys the original comic book or page from our site, then obviously you get the money from that. But then if they then trade it on to someone else, another collector, for the same or more money, you continue to get a percentage of each subsequent sale, which you never used to do before.
No, I mean, you think of, I've sold, like I say, I used to paint traditionally, so when I did my early Judge Dredd and Marvel stuff, hundreds and hundreds of physical painted pages. And I've sold those over the years, like all artists, we have a trade and we sell and whatnot. And you sell for what you considered a decent price at the time. But then you see this stuff cropping up later that's gone up crazy in value, and I don't get a penny of that. I mean, fair enough, I sold it at the time, but it's you imagine some of the 60s Marvel artwork, the original sort of like early Spider-Man artwork, that creators sold for under $100. It's going for like $250,000 and stuff. And in a sense, the artists did create that. They wouldn't have existed without them. And certainly, as a lot of artists have moved into digital, again, you're losing that ability to kind of capitalize on the asset that you've created because it's digital. Whereas the whole great thing about NFTs is it gives an opportunity for artists to benefit from the digital artwork that they create. The quality is obviously going to be amazing to whoever gets a digital piece of artwork. And obviously you can enhance it with animation and make it completely different to a tangible piece of art. But you get the benefit of being able to do that, whereas you just wouldn't from any traditional art.
No, it is. It's a great facility that I don't think anyone anticipated when the blockchain first came into view. But now as I say, it's democratizing this type of thing for creators to actually continue to derive an income from residual sales. It's fantastic. So are you, just before we move on from that, are you happy with the way things have gone? And it's not a leading question, but you know, because you didn't have any expectation, I guess, before you started it. So are you happy with the NFT space generally?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, it was a new scene for me, and obviously, I mean, you guys have been fantastic, but I consider you guys at the top of the game anyway. I think there's a lot. Again, it's a new thing, and lots of people trying different things and getting into it. But obviously, you've planned for the long game, and it shows. So, you know, everything looks great there. And obviously,
Yeah.
like any new market, you're going to get good art or good creative projects. You're going to get bad creative projects. You're going to, you know, it's at that stage where everyone's feeling it out. But I do feel it's down to the creators to create good stuff and use tech and create proper, you know, innovative quality material. And that's what people will buy, and that's what people deserve. And I think over time, the good stuff will rise to the top, and the people who've jumped on for a quick buck and bunged a few Photoshop filters on their artwork or whatever and stuff, that'll move by the wayside, and the decent stuff, and then brands will be established in the market, and creators will be established in the market for doing that. I mean, from my point of view, all I can do is create the best work I can possibly create, and I've always done that traditionally or digitally, you know. But sometimes to my own detriment, because I put too much effort into it sometimes. But it's you know, and your platform's perfect to put that out there, and I just think it's all about creating quality. And I think over the coming few years, you know, that will happen. It'll be the best stuff will survive, the best brands will survive, and it'll just be seen as, yeah, this is a great platform, this is a great market, and it's another opportunity for creatives everywhere to get on board and add to whatever they're currently doing, you know.
Sure. I mean, you have a very distinctive style. I mean, the detail in your paintings is extraordinary, and they don't really come across in a little thumbnail. But it's when you can zoom in and look much more closely at the detail.
You can go in there. Everything's high resolution, so you can literally go right. You know, make it larger than it would be technically if you were looking at a physical piece. And obviously, like you say, because of the tech, you know, we've got the animations, we've got little extra things and stuff. Yeah, it's almost, you know, need to take a step back and really think hard about what you can do with it, because I think
takes it to a new level.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. I know some friends, and I've done this myself. People who've purchased some artwork, some digital artwork, they're showing it on their huge screen TV.
Yeah, exactly.
And it looks great. It really does. It really pops. So it's just a new way to consume art. And in terms of quality, it's interesting you mentioned quality before, because we try and curate all the work that comes to us. But art is very, very subjective. So what I think is really good, you may think is crap, and vice versa. So it's very, very difficult to be all things to all men. So we've got to be careful about what we reject and what we accept. It's a tough one. Not that we've ever wanted to reject any of your works, just impeccable. But there are works of varying standards out there, and it's difficult to cherry pick sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, that's never going to change, is it? I mean, that's been art from year one, hasn't it? And then the modern art craze, and you know, no one can say really what's good or bad. I mean, luckily for me, you know, from coming from the comic background and the sort of genre that I'm known for, and the work that I do, so I think I've got a very established style, and it's something that lends itself to the projects that I do. So it's quite distinctive, and you know, and I'm not going to change that. So that's just my stuff. And if people like it, great, you know, but I appreciate, you know, there's a ton of different artists, ton of different styles. It's, you know, we're not really in competition. It's just people will buy and be into what they like at the end of the day, you know.
That's right. Actually, there is something I've been meaning to ask you for ages. And I've just thought of it now. So this will take you by surprise. Your work is sort of sticks to a theme, which is sort of comic-y, but horror and visceral and Edgar Allan Poe-ish type of thing. I mean, have you ever, because I'm not aware of it, have you ever painted any more traditional themes? Because I haven't seen any.
Yeah, I mean, some of the film concept stuff, I mean, a lot of it, you know, I've not really put online or about, because it's been private, you know, for and that, depending on the project, some of that's been quite real world, nice, nice, gentle, sort of stuff. That's quite different. And I have done a few like private commissions for people as well, where they've like said, I want this and whatever, and a few portraits and so on. So I have done that and I can do that. But again, I think at the end of the day, I'm going to gravitate to projects that interest me from a genre point of view. And then as you get established over the years, people then come to you for a certain style of something. So you do get pigeonholed to some extent, but it's an area that I don't mind being known for, because I do respond to it, and I do like that sort of material, So it's playing to your strengths, and that's how it's panned out.
So no plans to do dogs playing poker or blue ladies or anything like that?
I don't know. I mean, it's to be honest, I'd find that, I mean, I could do it. The technical skills are there to do it. I'm sure it'd be like pulling teeth for me. So.
No, I know. Actually, there's a sneak peek, but I'll just reveal this now because we've never talked about this. We have a secret project. Terra Virtual has a secret project coming up, and Nick was commissioned to do a special cover for this project. I can't speak too much about it yet, but it has a flavor of Nick Percival in it, and I think
that was great. I mean, I won't spoil. That was great fun to do, and I think when that does come out, again, it's just showing another level to what you can do with NFTs. And that was cool. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, you captured it perfectly. That was great. But zip. Okay, so on to Bloodlines itself. I mean, the reason we're here, and that is, it's the first volume of a graphic novel. First of all, before we get into the detail, this is volume 1. So have you thought through the entire story and where it's going to go, or do you sort of take it as it comes, finish the first one, and then think about what you're going to do for volume 2?
Yeah, well, like I say, it's something a concept I came up with a long time ago originally, that I was developing, and I looked at traditional ways of publishing it and publishers and so on, and then shelved it, and then came back to it more recently. So I did have a game plan for where it was all going to go. I know the ending. I have an end point.
Oh, right.
And I have some key moments that I know are going to happen after volume 1, and I know what happens in volume 2. So I've not got the entire story, but I think as a lot of writers, I've spoken to, worked with in the past, a lot of advice is if you do know your end point, and your end point is solid, then it's obviously the journey is how you get there. But the worst thing is when you start a story and never know, it may be great and you never know where it's going, and then things just spiral out of control, and it never ends. So I do have an end point, which is good, because then I can work towards that. And like I say, the end of volume 1 ends on a little bit of a cliffhanger, but that's intended because it's a little bit like what you would have with the first season of a TV show or a pilot. So you want to know what happens, and between seasons. So that was kind of like the structure I was working for.
And you succeeded. You succeeded very well, because it does have that feel. The narrative content is sort of the characters all starting out separately and then gradually meeting.
So I'm very clear on volume 2, and I've already done a lot of artwork and layouts for that. So that's kind of in the bag, so to speak. And then I do know where the final endpoint will be and how everything will wrap up, and obviously key moments. But then it's plotting the journey and actually producing the work to get there. Yeah.
I can't wait to see the next volume. So could you give us a sort of very, very, without any spoilers, a rough outline of how would you describe Bloodlines in a couple of sentences, synopsis wise?
Yeah, I mean, it deals with a lot of themes I wanted to deal with probably for quite a while, but it was to create this kind of world where this event's happened, and we will get into that, but we don't totally explain it. Where obviously things have very much changed in this world. It's a very dark, grim, sort of dangerous place where something occurred, where emotions and feelings took on tangible forms, became like proper creatures, entities that ravaged through the various lands and have taken over. And so you got things like you think of these phrases like a panic attack. In this world, a panic attack is now actually like a swarm of creatures that would delve onto people and crush them with anxiety. You've got like a flood of tears. You imagine like a despair. People break it down in a flood of tears. That would be almost like a tidal wave of liquid that would ravage over various areas and go destroy communities and towns and cities and so on. So we've got these events where these emotions have kind of taken over, and it's radically changed the world. The book starts, we pick up quite far into this in the book, where this is how things are. and we focus on a core set of characters separately to seeing how they're dealing with it, each dealing with it in a different way. And obviously it is this sort of very kind of post-apocalyptic feel to the whole thing. So yeah, it's this very sort of like dangerous world. We've got these very sort of conflicted, compelling characters that are separate but will come together at some point. It's difficult to, without giving away too much, but yeah, and it was coming up with a way to visually represent all those themes that I wanted to work with and bond it together with like a strong narrative that would take you on the journey.
And you originally, because you obviously conceived of this quite a number of years ago, and it had a different title, which sort of gives away who the character, what the characters are.
It was working on like a dynamic of these characters and seeing them together as like a family, and I was looking at that as possible titles. And obviously, because this is a while ago, publishers, and obviously I could have gone the traditional route. You know, they were putting feelers and teasers out there to look at a traditional route. But then I kind of shelved the project and took a step back because I was busy working on Dread and other sorts of things. And then it became this sort of static thing that was always niggling at me, always something that I wanted to get back to. So it never came out or been printed. It wasn't finished or anything like that. And then obviously having a conversation with you, and we were looking at, obviously I've dealt with you over the years anyway. And it just seemed like this could be a good fit to sort of like, when I did finish it, which I did, and complete it and evolve it and look for a different avenue to publication, and it's, the tech, the NFT side of it is going to be integrated and fully support it. So I think it's going to evolve. It's going to be it's what's so cool about it. It's starting off kind of semi-traditionally, and for the readers and customers and collectors, it's going to evolve. So it's quite a unique way of storytelling. You've got all the comic book elements. Yeah, we're going to bring something extra to it. And and the storytelling opportunities of that are going to be fantastic. Brilliant.
Yeah, it does expand the nature of the storytelling and how you can do it, and that's going to be quite challenging, because when we first discussed it, I remember you said, "Oh, well, I've got this graphic novel I'm just about to finish, and I'm thinking about releasing it purely as an NFT." And oh, great idea! We discussed it, and that was fantastic. And then when I spoke to my colleague, Jawad, who's the CTO, co-founder of Terra Virtue, and said, right, we're going to do this graphic novel. He said, well, how are we going to deliver it? I mean, we don't have a traditional reader. And it was just, oh dear. It was one of those moments where we thought, oh dear. So actually, your idea has actually caused us to create a whole new technology, in a way, a whole new format in which to consume this type of literature. Because okay, we've seen e-readers and everything else and Kindles and whatnot, but they don't support animation, and they don't support all of the facilities, or many of the facilities that we've incorporated. And this is certainly something that's going to evolve over time anyway. So but we'll get on to the actual viewer in a couple of minutes. But I just wanted to stick with the story for a moment and just say that when I first read the graphic novel myself, I did find it, I mean, it was absolutely captivating, but quite sad as well in many ways, and particularly the father figure. And I think that's probably an emotion you wanted to evoke. He's a very, very sympathetic character.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, the whole themes are based around emotions and feelings, and almost like, if you're next to someone who's depressed, or could you catch these emotions? Could you become affected? Could these things jump between people? And we've got 4 characters that kind of reflect different areas of that. And the father character, again, a lot of it is from his narrative, so you get inside his head. And it's purposely never made clear whether he's remembering everything correct. Is he quite all there? Is this an accurate account of what's happened? Is it an accurate account of what his quest is? I mean, he says he's out there looking for his daughter, and obviously I'm not going to spoil anything, but is he really, or maybe he's even infected with something, so it's kind of, it's ambiguous, but but you get a good sense of the drive of the character, and it's quite sad. He's over the hill a bit. I imagine him a bit like an ex-boxer. He's in his mid-50s, so he's past his prime, but he's in this very dangerous place, and he's out there looking for his daughter, and it's just him alone in this like barren, sort of dangerous environment, going between the different cities and areas that are infected with these various entities. And then we have like a mother character who's part of a community. So there's communities out there that are like hiding and not been sort of ransacked or taken over yet. And again, she's involved in trying to, like, you know, hunt for things to keep the community stable, keep it together, keep it strong. So she's out on exploring the lands and so on. And then there's a son and a daughter character. None of these characters have names at the moment. You know, that was intentional. I just want them to be archetypes. So they're not actually got, you know, that's why we've got father, son, mother, and daughter. And the son and the daughter characters, again, they're young, they're hip, you know, they're out there surviving day to day. There's quite a nice humorous sort of attitude between those two. Like the son character, the guy always gets sent out for bait. The creatures will chase him while she's busy getting other stuff. So it's kind of, you know, setting up as a fall guy for each time. So they're deliberately different, and visually they're different. The color schemes are different for the storylines. You know, I've thought quite hard and long about, you know, that sort of side of it. There's quite a lot of things that if you look closely at it, you'll see the sort of color palettes for the characters and their attitudes and so on. And the first book is, like I say, is literally like a super long pilot episode or a first season, just to introduce the world, introduce the characters. You get the feeling for everything, how, you know, how it's all working together, and sets things up for what will be hopefully a long and exciting, unpredictable journey, and some revelations as to what actually did happen, you know, and is everything as it seems.
I was going to say, I hope there are some answers coming in the future. Like
Lost. I won't drag people on.
I know, no. I was thinking of that exactly. Don't make it like that.
I mean, I think the thing there, it was obviously, you know, I started this with an end point, so I do know where it's going. So
okay. Well, that's good.
There will be resolution, and hopefully people will be satisfied.
No, that's great. I mean, it's quite interesting that you've used emotions, because you've got something like 7, which hits the deadly sins and things like that. They're all sort of. I mean, was there anything that specifically inspired that thought process, or did it just come to you? Not
specifically. You know, it's not like I was in a dark time of my life or anything like that.
It's in the bottle.
I just wanted to do something that was a little bit deeper. That, you know, obviously, you know, it's a dystopian kind of world, and sometimes that can be used as quite an easy and lazy way to establish a universe, because people are so familiar with that trope. You know, you can say, here we are, post-apocalyptic. Everyone thinks, yeah, we kind of know the look and we know the rules for that kind of thing. So there are elements of that, but then I wanted to kind of subvert that. You know, think of a different reason why that may or may not be the case. And, you know, so, and the emotion angles, because, you know, emotions are different. Obviously, it focuses on these powerful dark emotions, so they're quite dominant at the moment. But then you've also got to think, but hang on, there'll be a flip side of that. You've got love, you've got compassion, you've got empathy. You know, they could be equally as strong, and surely they still exist within this like damaged world as well. And so one of the quests is that kind of thing. And you'll see as it evolves, you know, how those things come into play, how these two things sort of face off against each other. And it's quite apt a bit with, I mean, obviously it was developed before the world that we're in, so to speak, at the moment, that kind of division, you know, there's extreme sort of, you know, views between people and tolerance and intolerance and so on. And it does stir up these kind of reactions and emotions in people. So I think it's quite timely, unintentionally, I suppose, in that respect. But I think then people will relate to it and tap into it a bit more. So on a surface level, it's got all those things that a cool movie would have in that thing. You've got creatures, you've got monsters, you've got action, you've got these kind of like, you know, stylized visuals and so on. Yeah, I hope behind that there's a bit more substance and a bit more.
Yeah, there's depth. Yeah,
depth. Yeah,
absolutely. That's wonderful. And by the way, we're showing some of the films in the background, and these are all linkable from our blog, on the website, and on our Twitter stream. There's links to all these videos, and they do provide some great insight into Nick and his work and his techniques and everything else. So if this does interest you, I suggest you do check them out, because there's a lot of great stuff there and some great content. Okay, so what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about the viewer. I think we've decided to call it the V-play, to go along with our V-flect sort of theme. And as I said before, you know, we're used to having e-readers and CBR comic book readers as well, but they basically just show flat pages. And what we wanted to do was allow people to experience and appreciate the processes behind your work. So what we've tried to do, incorporated into this technology, the facility to actually see the different layers of your work. So we start with the sketches, or you can examine almost the whole novel in sketch form. Is that right? And then or paint form. Do you want to talk about the different levels and layers we offer, or you offer?
I mean, this is what's so exciting about it, really, because obviously, you know, traditional comics, that you see is what you get, you know, and obviously, you know, that's as it is. But with this, you get the traditional version of the graphic novel, so that's fully on painted artwork, all the word balloons, everything. But we've also got options to strip off the word balloons straight away, so you've got, like, you know, nearly 50 pages of painted artwork to go through, zooming in on every panel, you know, so you can see all that. And then even beneath that, you've got the pencils and the sketches, like you saw me drawing, the first stage, so to speak, of every page nearly. So, you know, you can see how things changed. I mean, these are like the artist editions that they release separately almost, but you're getting the whole thing in one kind of package. So you get to see the full-on penciled artwork for each page. You get to see, you know, how I paced it, how things changed compared to the painted versions, flip between them. You know, it's great. Basically, you're getting almost like from when I started with a blank page and I hadn't drawn anything, to the first time I put a pencil onto a piece of paper. Everything I then did for this book, you can have. You know, and you know, as a collector, if you're into that thing, it's great because it's like, you know, what an item. But as art fans, you know, and me personally, I love this kind of stuff because it's literally like, oh, he changed that there, or that panel's a bit different. Oh, but I can see, you know, you can spend ages just going through everything and seeing how the process was done. And you know, I'm like I say, I'm an art nerd. I'm a comic book nerd, and I would spend ages just looking at one pencil page, let alone nearly 50 of them. And then, you know, then we've also got things like the concept artwork I did as well. So those are things like when I was just thinking about designs and stuff that, you know, I mean, I would have loved something like this when I was younger, because it would have been, this is an entire creative process, and you see how that works from start to finish.
Absolutely. And one of the other features that I'm really keen on is the zooming feature. So that's particularly, you know, you can look at this on a desktop or a laptop or a phone or a tablet, whatever you like. It does work across all formats because it's browser based, so it's a device agnostic, but you can really zoom in and see the detail, which is great when you're looking at someone like your work, which has so much texture and richness to it that you can zoom in and really appreciate it.
We've got the animations as well, like the animations. So I mean, again, you know, we've done that. So you've got this traditional art, but then you've got this and it's subtle animation as well, which I think works for the artwork, because it's kind of, you don't want to distort the image and just start going crazy with it, because then why bother? Then you might as well have done an animated cartoon, or, you know. So it's enhancement. It's like nice effects. It's ambient. It creates a mood. It creates a tone. You know, it's in the right place, and it just gives that nice little difference to it. Again, something you can't do traditionally. And to me, that's just stage one. You know, what I've got planned for the second one, and how we can incorporate things into certain panels will appear, and maybe certain things will fade out. And you know, you can imagine a character where the villain's going to suddenly reveal in the background that wasn't there before. The creature, you know, there's so many little subtle things, Easter eggs, and it's. I mean, this is like I say, stage one, and it's still full of cool stuff. So where it's going to go will be great.
I know it is. I mean, because it is worth saying that you'd completed the bulk of this before we even conceived of NFTs or anything like that. Yeah. So it has been written as a sort of traditional graphic novel. But now, as you're saying, for the next volume, you can actually start incorporating features to maximize the potential of the viewer and do some really cool stuff, which you wouldn't be able to do traditionally.
Yeah.
And that's
totally,
fun. Yeah, that'll be great. Okay, well, we pretty much covered the viewer, etc. And I must say that to reiterate, the viewer covers obviously the comic book itself, the final painted art, but then it obviously goes into different layers, the sketches and the animations, and also has the opportunity to feature audio, although this particular work doesn't, but it does support audio as well. Nick, before we go on to some of the questions out there, because it seems that some people have a few things to ask you, you're very popular, I just want to cover what exactly is going on sale at the end of this interview.
Yeah, I mean, we've got well, we've got all the variants basically. You know, you'll have like the traditional standard graphic novel, which is the graphic novel. You get the full story. Everyone always gets the full story. You know, you don't miss out. You're not going to miss out on terms of what happens and whatnot. But because we've got all this supplementary material, there'll be ones like variant covers, which again is a staple of the comic book industry. You know, you get versions with different covers. We've got animated covers. We've got sketch covers. There'll be various versions where you get all the graphic novel and you get the pencil artwork, like so you can see between the pencils and so on. There'll be versions that have got that, all the color artwork, all the color art without the balloons, the pencils, the concept artwork that went into it, which is quite cool because that's not comic pages. That's just me sort of painting ideas and prototypes for some of the characters that I did and so on. And then we're looking at ultimate kind of versions that has everything in it, all the animated videos, all the animated materials we did. And there's a special version that's kind of a sneak peek from Volume 2, which is like a piece of artwork that appears in Volume 2 that we obviously can't show because it would spoil some of the things from Volume 1. But that's and I think we're setting up things like a video call with me where I might do a director's commentary kind of over the thing, and even including, for the lucky person somewhere, a fact that you could be incorporated as a character in the next volume of Bloodlines. So it could be yourself, or it could be somebody you like, or somebody you don't like. I don't know, but I have to see how that works in reality.
Speaking
and getting more sort of interaction, and I know there's a list on the blog somewhere that goes into more detail about the individual, a bit more in detail than me babbling on. But yeah, it's just the fact that we've got the opportunity here to do different versions and something for everybody and something for everybody's wallet as well at the end of the day. Yeah.
Absolutely, because we will be releasing in the very near future the what we'll call the vanilla version, which is the generic version, which will be at the relevant price for fans and as many people as you like to enjoy. What we're doing at first is releasing the collectible versions with the variant covers and everything else, and then, as I say, in a couple of weeks it will be the vanilla version, which will be priced to be enjoyed by the fans and just enjoyed as a graphic novel and a piece of art, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the collector's versions, it's like, this is, the world's first original NFT graphic novel. So it's a little bit like, I mean, not on that level. You think about when Action Comics 1, Fantastic Four 1, or comics in general, when these things first appeared, that was it. They were the first ones. And this is the first one in this format. So, and whoever gets, when you get a copy of that, it's always going to be that. It was the first. It'll be on blockchain. It'll be authenticated, and you can't put that back in the bottle. So you've got something there that you could trade and you could sell like a normal comic book over years. Increase in value, or you get a collection of them, and so it's quite an exciting time and exciting format. Yeah.
It is. I mean, you're at the cutting edge of innovation there, because, as you say, it's the first NFT graphic novel ever, and will always be that. Exactly. So for collectability itself, it ticks a major box. So very exciting.
I must just say, the pages we've shown as well. Obviously, there's tons of different artwork, but we've only shown you a little bit because we don't want to spoil what happens. So there's a lot of cool stuff that you're not seeing, but obviously for reasons that you need to see it.
Yeah, we've got to have a spoiler-free session, you see. Yeah. That's absolutely right. And also, I did notice that you said you can have a character in maybe a future novel, but I made the comment when I was speaking to you before that I thought I recognized the daughter in the novel as being similar to your own daughter, but you said that wasn't deliberate. It may have been subconscious.
No, I mean, they all work the way in there. I mean, one of the daughter characters in it visually looks a bit like my daughter Isabella, but then there's personalities of my other two daughters, Maddie and Lily. And the son's a bit like got elements of my son Jake, so name drop them all there, so they can't.
No favoritism.
Get them in there, yeah.
No, that's brilliant, Nick. I think what we'll do is we'll throw the thing open to questions from the outside, and let's see what anyone has to say. I'm just looking. If there are any questions, I'm sorry. It says here, actually, someone has said, no offense, but how are normal people supposed to afford a $200 comic book? That was, and it's just come up, and that's a very, very fair question, which is why I mentioned before we are initially launching the collectible edition, the special editions with the variant covers and special content, but there will be a vanilla version released very, very soon as we can. That will be priced. I don't know whether we have prices yet, Nick, but it will be priced for what you call the normal people in a sort of large quantity, and will be priced. So we're not excluding anyone. And I'll say,
you know, and obviously, you know, you want it to be seen, you want it to be read, you want people to enjoy it, you know. So it's catering for everybody at the end of the day. Yeah,
that's right. We don't want to be elitist about this, and that's actually our philosophy for everything that we carry on our site, where we can have control of that, and it goes through to our Godzilla v Kong merchandise. You know, we have these very rare, quite expensive collectible versions, but then we mass produce certain items to be enjoyed by the masses, because, you know, we're trying to democratize everything. But it's a good question. Let's see. Looking for question for Nick. How long does it take to make a novel like that from start to finish? An hour?
Yeah, there's not a direct answer to that, I think, because you're always thinking about things you want to do. So like I say, I originally came up with the concept, you know, a long time ago, and then it's kind of been gestating and got to a certain point, held it back, and then got dipped out of it again over the years, and ultimately came to where it is now. So you could argue it's took, like, you know, nearly 10 years, but effectively, if I was working on it start to finish full time, something like that would probably still take probably about a year in terms of like full on, you know, start to finish. And things get a bit easier as you establish the characters and stuff. You get a bit faster and you get used to some of the environments you've created. But you know, because I was creating this myself, it was nice that I didn't have the pressure initially of time constraints or deadlines, and I could do what I wanted with it. But yeah, so yeah, I would imagine about a year of volume. But the stuff, volume 2, like I say, is already developed to an extent that we'd certainly get something out quicker than that for the follow up.
And it becomes a labor of love, I suppose, because it has to be, because you have a day job, you have commissioned work that you get paid for. Right. This obviously you weren't getting paid for, so you are having to slot it in your spare time. Yeah. Okay, Holly's got a question for you. Do you have a favorite character or page, and why?
Yeah, I probably do like the father character. As I've got older, so I can relate to that more emotionally. It's a bit scary. I mean, I'm not, you know, there's obviously got elements of there that are not like me, but I think that whole thing about, you know, being a father and having children, and you can imagine yourself in this weird situation where it is just you and you're out there trying to, you know, like the current pandemic, isn't it? You're out there trying to survive and protect people and so on. And I think there's a page, and I'm not sure what page it ends up being. I think it might end up being, I can't remember if it's page 12 or 13, but it's a set of, you'll see, it's not a spoiler, but you'll see it's a single page and there's 3 vertical panels of him, and he's in the rain and he's just stood there and he's not really doing anything. He's just thinking about what he's going to do next. Yeah, he just looks really downbeat and dour, and this rain's pouring down on him. It's very somber mood, and he's internalizing, monologuing, you know, what he's got to do, how he's got to survive. And yeah, it's to me, you probably won't even stand out, but it was just a page that sort of resonated when I did it, and visually I think it came out really well.
Yeah, I know which.
It's not that one.
No. Good try though.
Keep going quickly. One, keep going.
Don't linger too long. We don't want to spoil them too much.
Yeah, it's about 3 hours. Okay, you'll get to it.
Have a look. And we've got one here from Jake Hellerman. I noticed earlier, he said, you need to make a virtual art frame you can put up in your home and display digital art like a real painting. Any plans for that? I mean, I just wanted to say that, because I saw this earlier and I did want to address it, but I didn't want to interrupt Nick, that most of the smart TVs now do actually have those facilities. And it's a question of, because this works on any device, the player, you will be able to, providing you've got a compatible TV, you will be able to swipe it and throw it and cast it onto your TV screen and look at it pretty detailed, still controlling it from your device, but admiring it on your TV screen. There's your panels. There you go. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And you know, you can zoom into this right into his eye if you want to, and the detail is just extraordinary. I didn't mean you had to do that, but I just wanted to explain the feature and how you can really admire the detail in these paintings. They really are great. And of course, the fact that you can take out the speech bubbles and the text and just admire them as pure paintings is a real bonus, which obviously you can't do with real life comic books.
No, well, like I say, from an artist's point of view, there's always the thing. Sometimes someone will stick a word balloon over something where you didn't want it to go. So it's like, they've covered up a really cool piece of art. Here, you can just, it doesn't matter. You can just take it off and still see the painting underneath. So
that's right. Actually, I noticed, because I was reading it again this morning, just to refresh myself as a refresher, and I noticed that something happened at one point in the narrative, and it would have been a perfect opportunity for you to have put a wadoom or a big sound effecty type thing, and there are none at all.
Yeah, I purposely didn't do sound. I mean, I'm not a massive fan of sound effects. I mean, it can be used in comics when artists use them quite creatively with the lettering, and Frank Miller does a very good job of it, using sound effects. And, and so on, as actual integrated as part of the artwork. But because my artwork's quite realistic and so on, and you know, I wanted to create. I thought it would have brought you out of it, you know, to see kind of like a traditional comic book sound effect in something that's quite where I've gone for like realism to some extent. So I can't see them being traditional comic book sound effects.
No, I don't think so.
We can start adding audio and stuff like that later.
Do you know, I was thinking exactly that. So when you know, if there was just an event, a single event on one page, and as soon as you click onto that page, you could actually have the sound effect, which would tally.
Soundtrack as well, you know, you could have music playing in and out,
rain
and stuff,
rain dropping and all that. Yeah, that's great. There you go. That'll be volume 2, rain sounds, Rain Man. Okay, and I missed some of the questions there. Too busy listening. Do you see the sector for NFT graphic novels reaching out to a big mainstream audience in the future? This is from Little Granham. I mean, I'm really stoked about the potential.
Yeah, I think it will. I mean, you know, it's just new, isn't it? It's like when people were buying digital music, and you know, I don't buy any DVDs anymore. I don't, you know, it's you know, I think it will, and I think it'll just become a new format, and I think it'll just complement it. You know, of course you'll still buy real stuff and, you know, traditional books and traditional comics and so on. But I think as maybe more and more people see what you can do with this, it'll be, and you know, as we integrate the technology more, it'll be seen as a new format and a new exciting release. And don't get me wrong, like I say, this is a world first, so it's a highly collectible thing. And you know full well, you know, of course, people like Marvel and DC are going to do this in the future. It's a given. You know, why would they not? So it's all going to help get the public awareness around this kind of thing and get people to accept it and embrace it. Luckily, we got out the gate first, but it's I think it's only good for the industry because it just legitimizes it, and I think it will be. I think it'll take a bit of time, but you know, you've got to start somewhere, and I really do think it will become a thing.
I hope so as well, because it's not just like an e-reader, because you use a Kindle and it's just replicating the book, and you can see, you know, you change the fonts, etc., and make little marks, but this actually goes a lot deeper and actually employs the technology also, the way it should be.
Big point to that, Gary, as well. Obviously, you know, when you look at a digital comic on your iPad and like a Kindle and whatnot, you've bought the comic. That's it. You're actually buying this. You're owning this. This is, you know, you're not just like viewing it digitally. It's an item that you own. So you know, you can't go and trade the comics you bought on you know, other platforms or Comixology and so on. You know, you're buying it to read, and that's it. And it's produced. That's all it is. This, you've actually purchased this limited edition. You've purchased this variant cover in the same way you would in traditional comics. And you think about, you know, then if it does increase in value, you've got something there that you can sell, or you can trade, or just keep and just have it as a nice collection that increases. So I think that's the NFT thing brings a whole new angle to it that's not available already.
And it stays in mint condition.
Yeah, it can never be done.
You forgot about that. Yes. Okay, Twitchfine. As a huge Metalhead music fan, I hope for a future animated album art NFT. Could you imagine an animated Cannibal Corpse album cover? That would be so cool. There are certain things in the works, but I don't know about Cannibal Corpse because I'm not familiar with it. But anything's possible. This new viewer will open the door to quite a few creative concepts, I'm sure. Nick, why choosing Terra Virtua to release it? Best choice, obviously. Good, I'm glad you said that. But I'm keen to hear your side on this.
Well, I think, like I say, obviously, yeah, I know Gary, but when I've looked at what's available out there with crypto art and the scene, it's just very convoluted. It's like a cattle market, you know. Everything's just chucked out there, and it's almost like see what sticks, basically. And you get lost in a crowd, and it just looks a mess. Whereas I think Terra Virtua is, you know, it's been very selective in the projects that it's chosen to go for, and obviously they've got the official stuff they do, which elevates them, like the Godzilla Kong, which are legitimate official licenses. And for me, you know, I spent a lot of time on this. I want, you know, you create a quality product, but you want a quality outlet for it as well. So, you know, and obviously I've known what's going on behind the scenes with the things they've been doing and what they've got coming up. And for me, it's just the perfect synergy. You know, it's I like the people, but I also just like the attitude and the format. And, you know, obviously I want my work to look as good as it can possibly look in this format. And the tech team and the marketing team have been fantastic at doing that. So for me, it's a win-win because it looks great from my point of view. And I think they're taken seriously as well. So it's not just chuck it out and see what happens. It's got a proper release, and it's a perfect thing for me to be involved in, I think.
Thanks, Nick. That's good of you to say that. I'll give you the £10 later. No, it's appreciated, and I think it's fair to say, particularly on the comic side of things, we genuinely do care, and I know Jawad and myself particularly, we're comic book fans, and we love being involved with this. It's great.
Yeah, well, we've talked about Neil Adams' artwork and stuff, and you know, when I'm doing this stuff, and to be able to throw these references in, and the people you're dealing with actually know what you're on about, rather than thinking.
Well, I remember I was at the New York Comic Con, and I met Neil Adams, and you were the first person I sent the photo to. Remember, a couple of years ago.
That counts for a lot, because it does matter at the end of the day. Because then when I'm talking about certain things I want to do, or certain things, it's like you totally get where I'm coming from, because you understand the narrative, you understand, you know, how that kind of thing works, and that's important, you know, because otherwise it's just, what is it? It just gets chucked in like anything else out there, and it needs to be paid attention to and handled with love and care.
Well, we try. Erimath. I wish people would have normal, easily pronounceable names. Erimath. Will pages be partly animated?
There certainly will be for the sequel. I mean, at the moment, you've got these animated covers that you can see, and on some of the deluxe editions, you get a ton of animation with the behind-the-scenes stuff that I did, and some of the videos that were created specifically to showcase the cast of characters and the environment. So that's all in there. Obviously, like Gary said, originally this was developed from a traditional point of view, and I moved over to the NFT side. So that's why we worked basically on the big items like the covers and the extras and so on. But yeah, certainly volume 2 of you know, got some great ideas of how we can incorporate that.
Right, absolutely. I'm looking forward to that so much. Right, looking for more questions. Do we have any more? Got lots of comments, which is nice. Is there sound? I think we covered that, but maybe if you missed that the first time, Nick, we spoke about sound for perhaps the next one.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like I say, it'd be easy to have just slapped on a quick bit of soundtrack for some of the covers and so on. But, you know, at this stage, it was about, you know, getting it completed and getting it working and everything looking slick. So again, I can imagine in the follow-up, you know, we'll have some ambient sound, characters associated maybe with their own little bits of soundtrack, sound effects. You know, again, nothing too sort of in your face, but it's just to enhance what's already there. I think everything should be quite subtle. Otherwise, go make a film, go make a cartoon, whatever, you know. So it's about combining the two kind of like formats so that it complements each other. And again, yes, certainly be incorporated in the follow-ups.
Brilliant. Look forward to that. Maybe you have your own voice narrating it.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm joking. So we're getting close. We're about 5 minutes away from the release. And so your final opportunity to ask any final questions from Nick, because he may not be appearing again until volume 2, which could be a while away. Are you planning from Rabbitfly, I can pronounce that one, are you planning to explore different worlds in the future, genres and plot lines? Would you consider changing genres, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, again, if it's all about the story, really, for me, if it warrants it, yeah, I don't mind. And I think I'd always lean towards the stuff that I'm known for. But there's another project I've sort of been developing that is very different to this, and you would consider that to be a different genre. And yeah, so I mean, definitely, yeah. I mean, even Bloodlines itself will evolve. Though. I mean, you think it starts off as one particular thing, and it does, but you'd be surprised at kind of what happens and how and some of the directions that it goes. Talking about different genres certainly, yeah, it does evolve. So I don't want to give away too much, but it's gonna stretch it a bit, yeah.
No, that's great. Little Granham has asked, will you be creating more comics in the future and launch on the reader? In fact, what would be interesting is, what do you think the comic book companies, because the likes of 2000 AD, who you work with Judge Dredd, I wonder if they'd be willing to embrace this sort of technology, because it's a new form of distribution for them. They're still involved, they still have to pay the artists to do the work, and therefore they would derive the income from this. But it's probably an easier way to distribute. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I think at the moment, obviously, they've got a very loyal traditional readership, from the loyal, and you wouldn't want to sort of like alienate that. But again, it's about complementing the two things. I don't see. I think this is only going to go in one direction. We're not going to go completely back. So I think if you're a comic book publisher, you look at the properties you've got, and you look at what you can do with them, and it's just another avenue. It's another form of storytelling. I think it's more. I think what would be cool from the other publishers would be you doing your traditional comics, but you do stuff purely as an NFT. You do something different with it. And then, everyone's got the opportunity to do that, and people are going to do it. I mean, this is going to, people are going to look at this and think, why aren't we doing this as well? Of course they will. And you'll get flooded with stuff, but there'll be good stuff, bad stuff. But I think it's a format that it lends itself to it, and I think it'll become a thing, definitely, yeah.
But you don't think it'll ever replace the traditional printed?
I mean, I think we had this conversation's been going on for decades, hasn't it? Like, TV was going to kill cinema, or DVD was going to kill going, and books are going to get replaced by, and it's like, we're a tactile world. We're always going to want physical, tangible things, but we're a massively digital world now as well. And I think you get this camp of people being an either or, and I just don't see that being a thing. You just embrace it. You like this particular format, you get all these extras, you get this unique collectible thing. Fantastic, but it doesn't mean you can't go and buy a book or a comic as well. It's right. Yeah,
that's right. We like the tactile, and that's a great way to end this. We're launching Bloodlines in 2.5 minutes, so please check out our site, terravirtua.io. Nick, as always, it's a great pleasure to speak to you. We always have a good chat. To all of those who've been listening and sending in the questions, thank you so much. And we really do hope you get as much pleasure and enjoyment out of this project as we have. And I know how much Nick's enjoyed doing it as well. So it looks as though we're on sale. It's on sale. Nick, I'll let you have the last word.
Yeah, I just hope people enjoy it. I mean, like I say, it's an ongoing thing, so you can get in at the beginning. You can get in there from scratch and get something brand new format. So you've got a nice collectible, a nice story, and I'm just really excited. Hope it goes well. Cheers.
Thanks so much, Nick. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you again soon. All the best.
Cheers.
Bye.